Okay, as we said this morning, Daniel chapter 9 talks about the 70 weeks of Daniel. And I believe it's vitally important to be able to understand this because it's a foundation of knowing about end times prophecy. So we're going to kind of go through this. I'm going to read this out loud for you. Specifically, Daniel chapter 9, 20 through the end of the chapter. So if you guys want to turn there. While I was speaking and praying, confessing my sin and the sin of the people, Israel, making up my request to the Lord my God for his holy hill, while I was still in prayer, Gabriel, the man I had seen in the earlier vision, came to me in swift flight about the time of the evening sacrifice. He instructed me and said to me, Daniel, I have now come to you in insight and understanding. As soon as you began to pray, an answer was given, which I have come to tell you, for you are highly esteemed. Therefore, consider the message and understand the vision. 77s are decreed for your people in your holy city to finish transgression, to put an end to sin, to atone for wickedness, to bring in everlasting righteousness, to seal up vision and prophecy, and to anoint the most holy. Know and understand this, from the issuing of the decree to restore and rebuild Jerusalem until the anointed one, the ruler, comes, there will be 7 sevens and 62 sevens. It will be rebuilt with streets and a trench, but in times of trouble. After the 62 sevens, the anointed one will be cut off and have nothing. The people of the ruler who will come will destroy the city and have nothing. The people and the ruler who will come will destroy the city and the sanctuary. The end will come like a flood. War will continue until the end, and desolations have been decreed. He will confirm a covenant with many for 1 7. In the middle of the 7, he will put an end to sacrifice and offering. And on a wing of the temple, he will set up an abomination that causes desolation until the end that is decreed is poured out on him. So that sounds easy enough. All right, so let's get started. There's a little bit of a background here about Daniel. So at the very beginning of Daniel chapter 9, I'm going to read this verse for you. In the first year of Darius, son of Ahasuerus, a Mede by descent, who was made ruler over the Babylonian kingdom, in the first year of his reign, I, Daniel, understood from the Scriptures, according to the word of the Lord given to Jeremiah the prophet, that the desolation of Jerusalem would be 70 years. So Daniel knew it was going to be about 70 years of captivity, and that they were nearly up. So as he was praying, Daniel understood, hey, if these 70 years of captivity are up, I better start confessing the sins of Israel, because it's understood that Daniel was most likely thinking that when they were done with the 70 years of captivity, that they were probably going to be ushered into the millennial kingdom. But, obviously, later on, we'll find out that that's going to be a much future prophecy. And then verse 3, so I turned to the Lord, and God pleaded with him in prayer and petition and fasting and sackcloth and ashes. So with Daniel assuming this, he prayed to the Lord. O Lord, the great and awesome God, who keeps his covenant of love with all who love and obey his commands. We have sinned and done wrong. We have been wicked and have rebelled. We have turned away from your commands and laws. We have not listened to your servants, the prophets, who spoke your name to our kings, our princes, our fathers, and to the people of the land. So at this point in time, as Daniel is thinking in his head, okay, we're in captivity. Here's everything that we did wrong, because they didn't observe the Sabbath, the 70. So for as many years that they didn't observe the Sabbath year, God was going to put them into exile. So they had to go into exile for 70 years. So as he's praying and asking for forgiveness for the people of Israel, God sends Gabriel to kind of set him straight a little bit. So Gabriel comes to Daniel in verses 20 through 23 to correct Daniel in his misunderstanding about the kingdom being set up after the 70-year kingdom. So we pick up in verse 20. While I was speaking and praying, confessing my sin and the sin of my people Israel, and making my request to the Lord my God for his holy hill, which would obviously be Jerusalem, while I was still in prayer, Gabriel, the man I had seen in the earlier vision, came to me in swift flight about the time of the evening sacrifice. He instructed me and said to me, Daniel, I have now come to give you an insight and understanding. As soon as you began to pray, an answer was given, which I have come to tell you, for you are highly esteemed. So therefore consider the message and understand the vision. So Gabriel's coming to tell him, okay, let me go ahead and tell you exactly what's going to happen here. Okay, so here's where we dive into the decree of the 77s. And this is very important. If you guys have any questions, just real fast, I forgot to mention this. If you have any questions, just go ahead and write them down. Rob's going to actually come up right after this as I discuss the 70 weeks. Rob's going to actually talk about the 70th week. So I'm sure a lot of questions will come up. Just write them down, and then afterwards, we're going to take a 5-minute break, and then we're going to do kind of like a little question and answer session for those who want to ask questions. So. Okay, so the decree of the 77s. 77s are decreed for your people and your holy city. Daniel's given a play on words here that it wouldn't be 70 years, but 77s or of years before the king will come to pass. Now, what I like to do here is, I kind of like to draw this out. I'm kind of somebody, I learn if I can see it in front of me. So, we've got this timeline right here. So, and God says that He is going to, He's going to have 77s, or it's a play on words that they're going to be 77s of weeks. So Daniel's given a 490-year period that must be fulfilled for the people of Israel. So it's important to understand that Daniel was given the times of the Gentiles as well in chapter 2. That's when he gives the statue, and there's all the different empires that are going to happen. Obviously starting with Nebuchadnezzar and then ending all the way with a future kingdom that has not happened yet that is obviously going to be ruled by the Antichrist. But he gives us the times of the Gentiles. So, but this 490-year period is to be cut out, or Hebrew meaning of decreed of this time. So the center of the program is the Jewish city of Jerusalem and the Jews. So obviously it's important to note here that this does not include the church. So when we talk about this 490-year period, we're talking about what God has set aside for the Israelites or the Jews or the Hebrews at the time. Okay, 77s are decreed for your people and for your holy city to finish the transgressions, put to an end to sin, to atone for wickedness, to bring in everlasting righteousness, to seal up the vision of prophecy, and to anoint the most holy. There are 6 things that are listed from Gabriel that Daniel wrote down were the absolute purpose of the 490 years, or the 70 weeks. And we're going to walk through those real fast. The first thing that Daniel was told is when this 490 years is over, that it's going to be a finish of transgression. So in Hebrew, finish means to restrain completely. I think this is important to understand. And also in Hebrew, transgression means to rebel. So this sentence means one transgression that is finished. So in this context, it's going to be the transgression or the rejection of the Messiah. So when the 490 years is over, the Jews, or as we know from other scriptures, the remnant of Israel that will be saved will have accepted the Messiah. We know that in part, based off of Romans 11, that the Jews are blinded in part until the times of the Gentiles comes in, which Rob mentioned this morning. Obviously, God is working within the nations, the Gentile nations right now, to pull a people for Him, Acts chapter 15. Until when that time is over, then God's face will turn to the Jews, and at that time when He completes that, the Jews will have accepted the Messiah, or He'll put an end, a finish to their transgressions. He'll finish them rejecting the Messiah.